So now we do the brilliant and inevitable thing of overlaying the supply graph from 3.1b onto the demand graph of 3.1a to get 3.c equilibrium. Equilibrium is where x marks the spot. It is the price that comes from that intersection. We label it P star. Star denotes equilibrium. And then we drop an anchor down from the intersection onto the x-axis, and we label this Q star. Again, star denotes equilibrium for us. So what is so special about this point? This is the point where everything that is supplied, so this is the price, where if we take a look at what the quantity supplied is at that price, it is exactly equal to, again, looking at that price and reflecting it off of the demand curve, it is exactly equal to the quantity demanded. So this means that there is not a circumstance where you go to the store and you want to get something and it's not there. Everything demanded is supplied, right? Everything demanded is supplied. It's also not a scenario where you as a producer produce a bunch of stuff and it stays in a warehouse and it doesn't get sold, right? PlayStation VR 2, I think, is the most recent instance of this, where they literally stopped production process because they have so much inventory of it in their warehouses, right? So not a situation where you have more quantity supplied than demanded. Everything that you produce, right? It's like the Apple Vision Pro, right? All the units that they've sold, that they've produced, not all of them, but a lot of them have been demanded, right? Even though it's a gimmicky thing that doesn't really do much, anything better than the Meta Quest 3. I've tried them both. Take my word for it. So this is a situation where the market is what we would call, it's cleared. So this is called the market clearing price. That's the same as the equilibrium price. So let's talk very quickly about what if the price was artificially high. If the price was artificially high, then we would end up with people demanding only a few of the goods, and we'd end up with suppliers supplying a lot of the goods, right? So when we have way more supply than we have demand, we have a situation of excess supply or situation of surplus. So when we're above the price, we end up with a surplus. When we're below the price, if we have a price that's too low, then we end up with a situation where the supply is going to be too low. The producers are just not incentivized enough with high enough profits in order to actually produce enough goods, and the demand is far too high. At that sale price, there's a whole bunch of people that want that good. And so as a result, we end up with something called a shortage. We end up with a shortage when the supply, the price is too low, and the supply is less than the demand. So in a situation of a surplus, right, when the supply is too high, the producers seeing that are like, oh man, I am spending all this money on warehousing and other things like that. I'm also holding on to goods that might be perishable, right? If it's agriculture or foodstuffs, it might go bad. It also might just become antiquated, right? If it's like a VCR or something like that, and you put it into storage 30 years ago, it's pretty much a paperweight now. So you're not going to get any money off that, right? You guys do know what a VCR is? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm not that old yet. Awesome. So those are the reasons why you would lower the price, because yeah, sometimes you just want to wait it out. But also, the more that you wait it out, the more likely it is somebody else is going to reverse engineer the thing that you produced, or somebody else is going to come in with something that's better, that's smaller, that's faster, that does it at a higher graphical whatever processing rate, right? So for a lot of different reasons, you're going to want to lower the price. If you end up having something that's priced too high and you end up with a whole bunch of stuff in a warehouse, you're going to want to lower the price so that you get to that equilibrium, right? You're going to find some price where the amount that you're producing is closer than to the amount that you're actually selling, right? Alternatively, if you have something that is too low, right? If you price something that's too low, then you're going to end up with a bunch of shortages of it, right? And you're going to end up with more people demanding it than you are able to produce. And so as a result, you're going to be like, oh, I'm leaving a bunch of money on the table. We have all of this, pent up latent, demand out there, and we're only actually producing this many. Well, let's just increase the price. If we increase the price, that's going to negatively impact demand because of the law of demand. And then the more we increase the price, the more that we feel comfortable in ramping up production and kind of devoting different parts of our, mega corporation to doing that. And they do that until they get to a point where everything they're producing is being consumed. So in this way, since a positive deviation from this point creates dynamics that make us go back to that point, and since a negative deviation from the point, again, creates dynamics that have us go back to this point, we call this point stable. There's stability to the equilibrium, because anytime it gets perturbed, it gets jostled off of its path, the normal market forces will bring the price either down if it's too high or up if it's too low. Alternatively, it would not be stable if, when the price got too high, the market forces just made it so that the price increased more, right? Then the price would just grow into infinity. Similarly, it would not be stable if, when the market price was too low, the market forces continued to put downward pressure on the price, right? Which would just drive it into the ground eventually. So it's stable because positive deviations result in negative pressures, and negative deviations result in positive pressures.